Okay, so recap of last week. Last week was really good. We found the queen. We found eggs. We found larvae. We saw that they were developing um, the honey stores up in the supers really well, but they weren't drawing out as much comb as they initially started drawing out. So they're slowing down on that. So checkerboarded the frames and put the frames that had drawn out comb where there was brood in them into sort of the first super up from the brood box to give them somewhere to store honey directly as they were going in. So we did that last week. This week, I've already actually done the inspection because the weather was super bad, and there was like a window where it wasn't raining and it wasn't too bad. So I went out there and did the inspection quickly. My hope this time was to actually take out some honey frames from the brood box. There was a couple of frames there that had pretty much full of honey, and put some fresh frames in there of just foundation, just so they could build that up. The reason for that is just so I just have two sort of honey resource frames to chuck them when they're going into winter, or maybe even uh, when I'm looking ahead next year to doing a split, I could use that already drawn out comb to go and use that and help a new nuke or a new hive split or something next year. So I'm just trying to sort of build up on the resources that I've got. Unfortunately, the weather's been so poor. I think this is why. But when I checked that honey frame, they were already eating a lot of it, and so I decided just to leave that in there as a resource frame. So other than that, it's not an all emotional roller coaster this week. It's just me going through the hive, just check by check, frame by frame, and just looking at the development of it. So I'm just going to run the clip now, and I'll see you on the next video. Cool. Thanks very much. This is week 6 at the hive. I'm just going through now, just put some smoke in the top. Nice and easy. Take the top super off. So I'm going to go straight through the bottom brood box of the hive again. Found that worked really well. And the smoke has still got plenty of smoke in it by the time I'm doing that, rather than going top to bottom. So I'm doing it that way. Getting the queen excluder off. Quick check. Nope, queen isn't on there. All good. Bit of smoke. Push the bees down. So going through this at the moment. Take out the second frame first. So my objective here was, I'm taking the first frame out first. That this frame here has a little bit of brood in it, so I can't take it out in that middle bit. And most of the honey's actually gone on that side. There was a fair bit of honey in there before, so I'm putting them on the floor. Someone told me it's better to put them on the floor on a corner rather than on the flat bottom, like I've been doing. And then this one was full of honey, but they've eaten a lot of it, and I think that's probably because the weather's been quite bad, coupled with the queen obviously stopped laying for a little bit because there was no room. So now there's a massive brood, and the weather has been horrible, so they haven't been able to get out and forage as much. So I think they've probably just been staying inside, eating some stores, feeding the babies. The queen's on that frame there, that's what I'm pointing at. So I'm just putting her back to one side and going through this frame by frame. So look at that, loads and loads of brood there, and fair bit. And at the bottom of that, it's mainly eggs and young larvae as well. So this one, lots of bees, lots of brood, all good. I think I can see some eggs in the bottom of there, so I'm just bringing it over to show you now. So here we are, lots of little baby bees, and you can see up and around the side, the top and around the side, all the little bees poking their heads into the honey and having a little bit to eat. That's what the smoke does. It convinces them there's a fire, so they're all sticking their little heads in, having something to eat. And then there's these nurse bees, which are feeding the larvae as well. So yeah, I'll chuck that back in the hive now and go through the rest of it. So yeah, what I wanted to do with that frame that was pretty much just honey was to take that out and put a fresh frame in for them to draw out more, but where the weather's been quite bad and it looks like it's going to continue to be quite bad, I'm going to leave it in there for them as some resources and some stores, just so they've got plenty. Maybe next week I'll be able to take it out if the weather looks like it's going to brighten up a bit, but at the moment it's a bit wet and a bit windy. Yeah, so plenty of brood on that side going through. What we got on this one? So lots of bees, and again it's pretty much empty, so I think this is mainly eggs inside. And again lots of bees on this side. I'm blowing on them, just trying to move them out of the way. Yeah, they do really seem to gather over this this far side. They seem to like it over here. So yeah, this one, it's got I don't know, a bit of brood, a bit of stores, a bit of all good. It's quite a similar thing now. But what we got on this one, I think I'll bring this one over to show you, because you can see that there's some freshly capped brood and some brood that's sort of maybe just about to hatch. So the patch in the middle, or up towards the top, is actually a lot darker. I think that's older, whereas the lighter, more it's almost white capped brood down the bottom is I think it's only just being capped over / just been capped over. And then there's actually a lot of little larvae in between, in that strip in between that these bees are feeding. But I'm trying to get my camera to focus on it, but my camera just didn't want to focus at all on this, so it's just blurry, so I do apologise for that. Yeah, it's not the best, but yeah, it's a bit sad. It's not really determined to get it to focus, obviously, but it's not sharpening up the image. But on this side, if you look towards the left hand side of the screen, there's a little bee with some orange pollen running down the frame. Look at that. And then what I love about this frame is just look at all the different colour pollens that they're coming in and making bee bread with. So there's all these different pollens, all these different colours. It's kind of a really satisfying image. Like, I'd quite happily have that as some wallpaper, or, you know, it's quite a decorative image. Yeah, so keeping on going. Last frame of the brood box, and we got some brood in it. Surprise, surprise. Both sides, plenty of brood, plenty of stores as well up in that one as well. So that's all good. Some of the other frames are looking a bit lighter on stores at the moment. I do think that's just that there's been a lot more brood and a lot more weather that's prevented the bees from going out. So yeah, it looks a bit messy putting these back in. I'm not a fan of putting these on the floor. Also, I just don't look where I'm walking half the time, so I'm always afraid I'm just going to kick them or knock them over. So I think I'm going to stick with putting the frames, leaning them against the hive on their bottom bar, like I have been doing. Probably not for the best, but I find it a lot easier when I'm going through the hive, and I think each to their own with beekeeping. There's definitely a lot of different ways to do it. So yeah, just checking these. So these was where these frames had brood in that have hatched out. So I put these in, and you can see it's kind of darker in them now. That's actually, they're pretty much full of honey. I don't know whether they've actually moved the honey stores up from the brood nest up into these, because that team is really heavy. Yeah, they haven't really drawn out much of the other cone. That one's drawn out a little bit more than the rest of them. And then this one, yeah, again, they've pretty much filled that up with honey. Just need to cap it up when it dehydrates. That one's a little bit more drawn out. Again, they've filled that one up pretty much. Just need to cap it off. And you can see that they've drawn out and started storing some on both sides of that frame, just in the middle there, and the same with this final frame. So they've drawn out and started storing in those two frames. Again, I think they do definitely prefer this side of the hive. So putting the final super on, taking the plastic cover off. The bees are all on there because on that roof, because I put the other hive on top, the other super on top. So pretty much capped in that one off now. Not really started on that frame. Doobie doo. Yeah, you know, pretty much all capped off. Yeah, all good. Ticking along, doing all right. That's a really pretty frame, isn't it? You know. So yeah, all good. Not much on that one. Oh, those two are stuck together. Just unstick them. Doobie doo. Again, a nice looking frame, pretty much full of honey. All capped up. This one again, they're drawn out a little bit, so they are drawing them out a little bit slowly, but with no real purpose or sort of. It's not like that's their main objective at the moment. Get another nice frame of honey, and then a drawn out one, and then again they're just capping this side off. That was just pretty much full of nectar, and now they've capped off that side. So then I'm just putting the bees away. Just put the frame back on. I'm really not a fan of that plastic cover. It seems to pin bees against the top of the bars, and I think it needs a spacer in it. Roof goes on, and then bang, the whatever it is, the straps go back on, and we're all good. Alright, take it easy.